Good day, good night, shalom, or welcome back, CFR Sports special guest. As you can see, I have the legendary former UFC and mixed martial arts fighter, Din Thomas, father, mentor, coach, and so much more. Welcome to the broadcast.
Man, welcome. Well, welcome. Thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to be here, man. I'm certainly glad to be here.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. We definitely got it done in the end. We got it done in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Thank you very much for honoring the broadcast with your presence. I think you have a unique and interesting story to tell with your vast experience. Um, so before we even get into you, as we spoke about prior, lockdown, zombie apocalypse, how has it been for you, sibling?
I like it. I like the fact that people now have to stay away from me and I can focus and I can concentrate. And it gives me a good excuse not to hang out and go out when everybody's partying. Because before, like everybody partying, like, Dean, come out, come hang out, come hang out. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'm such an introvert in that way. But now it's like nobody can hang out. And if they do, I'm like, man, listen, I don't want to get COVID. I already had it. So like, I don't want to get it again.
Built-in excuse now.
Yeah, I have a built-in excuse to be an introvert.
Definitely, definitely. And I guess like I've asked many people, have you taken advantage of all of this free time to be able to maybe look at new interest or get involved in things that you wanted to get involved, finish off projects and stuff? How's that been? Have you maximized your
Oh
time?
man, it's been great. Like training for me has been better. My athletes have been, just ecstatic and they've been getting full attention. And I've been doing a lot of other stuff. Me and Eve Edwards, we just and Rashad Edwards just made a movie, or Evans, I'm sorry. Me, Eve Edwards, and Rashad Evans, we just made a movie over the weekend. I'm still doing improv comedy. And I picked up a new hobby, candle making. This is my latest one. I just made this candle yesterday. So I gotta still fill it and put the candle stuff in it. But I made
Yeah,
this.
eh?
So
You
I'm
keep
making candles.
you're keeping yourself busy, most
Yeah.
definitely. And wait a minute, so you all three of y'all have done a movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We shot a film, an independent film.
Excellent. Obviously, you don't give too much away, I guess. But when are we looking to have that be in the public's eye?
Well, we got a couple of more scenes to film and then post production, but it's a short film, so it won't take too long. But I'm hoping at the start of the year we can release this. Hopefully, at the beginning of the year we can release it and get some eyes on us. I mean, it's a pretty powerful story, especially dealing with the times that we live in right now. There's a lot of messages,
Mm,
important messages that we send out. I mean, it's not really fight related, but there is some themes to the fight game that we put in there just because I mean that's what we do. So,
yes, yes.
but it's a very human interest story.
Excellent, excellent. So you're mixing the I guess not the best of both worlds, but you're utilizing your experience and your notoriety in regards to the combat sports side and bringing it to, as you say, the current state of affairs and a more sort of human piece focused.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, I've always been kind of deterred from watching like movies with combat sports in them, except for some boxing. Boxing movies tend to be pretty good, but like especially MMA movies, like you see these MMA movies and you're like, ugh, disgusting. What is this? Ugh. So, but I hope that we did some due diligence to this project and kept the integrity of the sport as well as the story that we're trying to tell.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to that, and please definitely keep me up to date with that so we can promote and share that most definitely.
Thank you.
So most welcome, Din. So in time-honored tradition, let's jump into the DeLorean, Din, and let's go back in
Mhm.
time. Uh, Paint us a vivid picture. Where were we born and raised?
Yeah, I was born in Wilmington, Delaware, which is about 15, 20 miles south of Philadelphia.
Philly.
And I was raised, yeah, and I was raised in Newark, Delaware, which is about 30 miles, 30, 40 miles south of Philadelphia. And and I was Newark, Delaware is a college town. The University of Delaware there is there. And small college town, but it was a great upbringing for me. I mean, it was so much fun growing up in Newark, Delaware. I know it sounds like, what, Delaware? But for me, I mean, it was like I had such a great childhood and experiences back then.
So paint a picture regarding, I mean, Delaware for me, obviously I'm in Birmingham, England. And I haven't actually visited that particular state, to be fair. But for me, when I think of Delaware, I think of rural. Am I incorrect in that assessment?
No, so yeah, I mean, for the most part, Delaware is a rural state. Like from most of it is rural, but when you talk about the location of it, the location is, like I said, it's 20 miles. I mean, it borders like where Philadelphia is, so like it's right up against Philadelphia, and then it's also like where I grew up, Newark, Delaware. Let's say, for instance, Newark, Delaware is like 40 miles from Philly. It's like 60 miles from Baltimore.
Oh,
It's 100 miles from New York City. It's so like it's centrally located like right in the middle of all this stuff. So you have access to all these different cities, but it's still small enough to where you can kind of still get that small vibe. Now, where I grew up was more suburban and not necessarily rural, but it was
yeah.
suburban. And but I mean, we were still connected in with all those major cities around because, like I said, I grew up closer to more major cities than I live now. And I'm an hour and a half from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, hour and a half from Orlando, but I lived closer to major cities back then in Delaware.
As a youngster.
Yeah.
So school life, what you say you had an excellent childhood. What was your thing at school? Was you always into sports and all that there, or was you
Yeah.
have it?
Well, that's the thing. Like when you grow up in an area like that, like we were always outside playing. So like I lived in a neighborhood, so we were like every day, get home from school, don't do your homework, just throw your stuff in the crib and go outside, play basketball, play football, play baseball, kickball. We was outside every day. So like athletics was my thing back then. We'd be outside flipping, doing flips in the street, just just having a good time as a child, just
Yes.
outside every day playing sports. And I played some organized sports a little bit. I played a little bit of baseball when I was like 10 and 11. And then when I was 11, I played football. I played 1 year of football. And then,
And when you say
and so,
football, sorry
well,
to
yeah, I
interrupt
say,
you.
yeah, American football,
Yeah.
American football. Yeah, I forgot who I was talking to. My son now plays soccer, which you would refer to as football.
Indeed.
But yes, I played American football and a little bit of baseball. But yeah, but like I said, like we was outside. I had fun every day. And then when I was just about to turn 13, my mother moved. She separated from my father and she moved us kids down to Florida, which was like, what in the hell just happened? Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, what just happened?
Culture shock. Okay, then. So 13 years up in North Delaware,
Yeah, in the Northeast.
Northeast.
Yeah, well,
We're
we had it was cold winters and
cold.
yeah,
This is what
cold
I'm
winters.
talking about. So
Yeah.
when we get down there was it Miami, did you say, or Florida?
Yeah, Florida. It was a small city called Port St. Lucie, Florida. I'm actually back in Port St. Lucie, but yeah,
Excellent.
small city called Port St. Lucie, Florida. And at the time, it was real small. I mean, like real rural and desolate, and just like yeah, like real small. And it was a culture shock for me because when you live in that part of the country, like you're used to certain things, you're used to seasons, and you're used to just you're used to being close to the city. And then when I got down here, it was like, oh my God, like it was like bugs and flying cockroaches and lizards and snakes and alligators and swamp and mosquitoes. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Because like the only experience I knew of Florida was from TV, and that was from watching Miami Vice and Disney World. So I thought I was moving to that. I thought it was going to be like beaches and girls with big boobs. And I come down here and it's mosquitoes and alligators. And I'm like, oh my God. What?
Tearing your ass up with them mosquitoes up there, right?
Yeah, I was like, what do we just do? No, let's go back. Yeah, so it was a real culture shock and a real change for me. Very something that was very hard for me to deal with as a young teenager.
Yes, going through, pre-adolescence and, and growing a little hair in it in places and stuff. Did you have any siblings, or was it just you and your mom down there?
No, I have two older brothers and a younger sister.
Okay. So at
Yeah,
least you
so
had some sibling support of sorts to kind of navigate in this new territory that you're in.
yeah, I mean, so like that was cool because we all got to experience it together. So
Hmm.
we at least we you're right, like we had each other to annoy my mother. So yeah, we would take turns annoying her. But yeah,
Yes.
but it was still good experiences. Like and I will say, growing up this way and having to deal with things and kind of being isolated and being alone on my own taught me a lot about life. So like I appreciate like all my childhood and these different things.
Well, all of those experiences, events, highs, lows have created the being who we have before us. So, whatever um happens, it happens for a reason. It's
Yeah.
up to us to kind of like roll with the punches, as they say, and dust yourself off when you've had that little tumble.
Yeah. I mean, it's been so like all those different things like moving to a new area like that helped me deal with like just being able to make adjustments and adapt to different situations. And
Hmm.
I don't know, man. Like I said, like I'm the one, and like my son is like this now too. Like I was always been very observant and always like to learn the lesson of whatever happens, and that's the most important thing. Is that a lot of people in life like they struggle through life because they never actually learned the lesson, and they don't attribute the whatever the lesson is to the appropriate thing. So it's like for me, whatever happens, I go, all right, this was the lesson. This is why it happened. Let's not make that mistake again. But a lot of people like to point fingers and take, and not accept responsibility and hold themselves accountable. But for me, like I was able to do that like my entire life. I don't know why. For whatever reason, I've just always been kind of able to do that.
You were blessed with that ability to take accountability, as you say, which is a very big thing, especially in 2020. As you've
Yeah.
highlighted, there are a lot of people just feel like it's, whoa, I do whatever I want to do. It's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's crazy. But, each to their own. I mean, I guess all of that kind of stuff. I mean, it makes life interesting to see the diversity of the human condition, whether it's good or whether it's bad. I mean, obviously, it's not too nice experiencing some of the bad elements of the human condition, but it makes life so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I love that, and I love that you put that, like the conditions of the human element, and like that's such an important thing, and that's why, and like I spend a lot of time studying and trying to become a better person, and just figuring out different ways to navigate through life, and using experiences or other people's experiences. So I mean, it's so important that we're able to do that, and just be responsible in our own way to make our lives easier and to make the people around us their lives easier and better.
Definite. And as whether you've taught it or whether it was genetic memory, your son is following the same footprints. If that's not possible, I would definitely implore parents to instill this at a very early stage for children and young adults whilst going through life to sit back, you know, look at what situations you've been in, what were the outcomes, and figure out, was that really the right way to do things? So we can critically think, and we can all, as a collective, start making the right decisions, I think, moving forward.
Well, it's funny that you say that about my son because, people, all right, first I'll say this, everybody says, being a parent is the most difficult job. It's either the most difficult job or the easiest job, depending on what type of parent you are. Like, you don't have to be a great parent. If you're not a great parent, then it's an easy job. But like, if you want to be a good parent, like there's some level of difficulty to it because there's not really a place to learn how to be a parent. You learn how to be a parent from essentially like your parents, and they may not have done the right thing. So it's difficult to be a good parent. Like it's such a hard thing to do. And the fact that my son turned out the way he did, he's such a good kid. Like, I don't even know if I could take credit for that. I don't even think I did anything. I just tried to be a good person around him and have him around me and see me being a good person. And I think that just kind of did its job. So, And my son is such a good kid. He's so responsible. He's so careful in what he in making decisions in life. He just turned 15 and like he's more mature than I am. Like, cause me, I'm goofing around. I'm hanging out with Matt Sarah doing dumb stuff. And like my son is so mature. He's like embarrassed of me sometimes because of the silly stuff that I do. But he's so mature and he's so smart and he gets all good grades. I never have to like help him or motivate him. And like even now, like he wakes up early. He wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we practice. We do, as you would say, football drills in the spot. You know, so before school, he likes to do football drills, and that's on his own. Like that's what he wants to do. But I wake up and I'm there to support him. So you know, he's just such a good kid, and like it's tough being a parent. Like when I see bad parents out there, like
Oh yeah.
I go, man, that sucks. But like, man, they just didn't know any better. Like it's hard to be a parent because you're not really taught except for what your parents taught you.
It's facts. It's absolutely facts. It's on the job training and on the job learning. But as we're highlighting, it's a case of like if you do the same thing, accepting a different result, that is deemed as insanity. So as you're raising a child, as you say, based upon your experience and how you've been raised, okay, well, I'm going to tweak that a little bit. Maybe I'm not going to be so heavy in regards to the physical discipline. Maybe I'm going to draw back on that, or maybe I'm going to increase that. It's all down to the person to interpret, but then it's that learning curve. It's, oh, did I go too far on that? Or do I need to ease back? And it's down to the child, down to the parent. It's all a learning curve, but it's having that support mechanism in places as well.
Yep. And there's some things that I take from what my parents did with us, and there's some things that I go, I'm definitely not doing that. But just like the fact that they gave us a lot of like autonomy, and they had a lot of faith in our decision making, and they kind of, I remember being like 9 years old, being able to stay out as late as I wanted, just. And that to me is like crazy because like you could never let a 9-year-old stay out late these days. Like that's crazy. But I remember, like I said, we'd be out all day long, come home from school and be out all day long. I came home when I wanted. And I don't know if my parents did that because they just knew that we would like come home because we were responsible or whatever, but they let us do that. And while that's not a good thing to do with kids, the fact that they gave us that trust, and that I give that same trust to my son on a lot of things. And now he's 15 now, and I still like, man, you better not, you better be home. But at the same time, like I still trust him to do the right thing and make the right decisions.
Definitely. Well, it was a very different era when you was growing up and when I was growing up, and I think we were able to do those kind of things because the perverted society that we kind of have today wasn't necessarily around at that point. So you could be
Yeah.
free, you could leave school, go home, have your dinner, get changed, then go out and spend 6 hours outside ramping, doing all kind of crazy shit with your friends. Because you were safe, you had a certain vicinity which you would be able to roam and do your thing. And then when your belly started to rumble, it's time to go back home and have some supper and go to bed.
Yep, that was it. Like that was how we knew what time it was to go home. It was like some kids, their parents were a little more strict. It was like street lights. For me, it was like when I'm hungry.
Definitely. And another one referenced your son as well, I think, because just based upon your character and who you are, you've not been necessarily the person who's been talking it, you've showed and proved it. So you're a walking embodiment of the representation of who you want to be. So it's not a fact that you need to drill it into your son and anybody around you. They can look and say, Din, he's doing it, he's responsible, he's taking accountability. He might joke around and stuff, but he's still doing what he needs to do. He's fulfilling his responsibilities.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that may be what it is, man. Is it like I never confused him with my morals and my actions. So whatever I said, I did, and if I didn't say it, I wouldn't do it. So like, and I think that may be an issue with some people, or just in general. It's like they say one thing and they do something else, so it's confusing. So you can't trust them. So like, why would you look up to somebody you can't trust? For me, it's like if I say, be a good person, do the right thing, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to say it and then, go around and be a jerk. I'm going to do what I say. So I think that lack of confusion, that clarity for him really helped build his mindset and personality.
Definitely, definitely. So back onto your path into combat sports. Paint that vivid picture again, Din. How did we arrive in spandex wanting to punch someone else in the damn face?
Okay, I was so when growing up, man. Growing up, I was a small kid. I was, 109, 120 pounds in like high school. So like I was a small dude, and I don't know if you, because what do y'all use? Y'all use
Kilos,
stones. Yeah,
kilos and stones.
I don't even know what that stones in kilos. That's like I don't know that. But it's like I was like the size of a strawweight girl in the UFC. Put it that way. So
Okay.
so I was a small dude, and I didn't want to get beat up. That was it. Like how guys are like, guys want to be alpha males and guys want to be tough and show out. And being such a small guy, I was like, man, I never want to get beat up. And I always knew that, but it wasn't until the UFC came around, my sister had showed it to me. She like, oh, I gotta show you some stuff. Cause we had grew up like watching, martial arts movie, kung fu
Yes.
movie, stuff like that, and Bruce Lee. But when she's like, I gotta show you something. This is the baddest thing I've ever seen. And then she showed me this video of UFC 2 with Hoist Gracie, and he just ran through, a plethora of guys.
Yes.
Yeah, and I said, oh, this was 1993. I said, oh my God, I have to learn how to do this. I was like, what is this? Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What?
What is it?
I said, I gotta learn how to do this. But it's not like it is today. Like today, like there's schools everywhere. There's a jiu-jitsu
Everywhere.
school, there's an MMA school, there's a kickboxing. Back then it was nothing. It was, there was zero.
Well, I guess
So
back then they would have doing karate or taekwondo gyms around, right?
yeah, it was, but I mean that was still, there was like karate and taekwondo and like, these traditional weird names of
Wing
of martial
Chun
arts.
and
Yeah, it was that stuff, but that's not what I wanted to learn.
Mhm.
I wanted to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I needed to learn from a Brazilian guy.
Yep.
That's the way it was. It was like, it was mid-90s. You needed to learn from a Brazilian guy, but there was nothing. So what I would do is I would go, man, I would get the black belt magazines at the time. I go over to the grocery store, get the black belt magazines, and I'd find where they were having seminars anywhere in the vicinity. And I would look that up, and then I would go to seminars. So my very first seminar I went to was in 1994. It was a Hicks and Gracie seminar in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I went. It was a 2-day seminar, and I learned so much about jiu-jitsu. And I was like so excited to do this.
From the
So
legend himself.
yeah, from Hicks and Gracie. And then after that, I went to a Hoist Gracie seminar. I went to a Half Gracie seminar. Then Marco Huas came in the area. I went to Marco Huas. So I was doing all this. In the meantime, I was buying videos. So Henzo Gracie, Craig Kuko, and then me and my buddy Paul Rodriguez, who grew up in the same town. He actually runs an academy in Orlando and trains a bunch of guys over there. But we would just train. We would watch the videos and just train, just me and him. And next thing I know, man, we just and it was all because I just still didn't want to get beat up. I just didn't want to get beat up in the club. And next thing you know, competitions came around. These amateur shoot fighting matches came around. We started doing that. And then it wasn't called mixed martial arts at the time. It was called Vale-Tudo.
Vale-Tudo. Yep.
So some shows would pop up. It was like the Tampa Vale-Tudo or the South Florida Vale-Tudo would pop up, and they would ask us to fight. And then me and Paul Rodriguez would just go. We were going around Florida just fighting. And just doing it because it was the cool thing to do. It wasn't even a cool thing to do. It was just nobody else was doing it.
Yeah.
And we knew how. So we were like, yeah, let's go fight.
Well, you had clearly, based upon what you've just said, you had a step up against a lot of other people because unless they had the dedication to say, you know what, I'm not just going to train stand up. I want to try and learn some of this Brazilian jiu-jitsu, some of this Gracie jiu-jitsu stuff. All they're coming out looking to do is to bang. So if you've got striking and you've got the ability to, maneuver on the ground, you've got a winning recipe there.
Oh, I had an advantage over everybody just based on like you said, those tactics. My strategies were always better than everybody's because um for whatever reason, even back in the mid 90s, I always considered myself complete. While everybody else at the time was like, a wrestler, a jujitsu guy, or a striker.
Yeah.
So my recipe back then was this. I said, whenever I fight a wrestler, I'm just going to submit him.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I fight a striker, I'm going to wrestle him. And
Yes.
whenever I fight a jujitsu guy, I'm going to punch him. And that was always my recipe. And that was always how I did it. And I think that still have that same mentality today as a coach, is to find the weakness. Now it's a lot harder to find now because everybody's good generally everywhere. So it's harder to find the weaknesses, but I still employ that same mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Find the weakness and exploit it.
Now, as you've just alluded to, I mean, you had a tremendous fighting career. Just fast forwarding in now to 2020, where we are now, and your extensive coaching experience that you've had and training young athletes and stars as well, former champions and all that there. Um, Talk about the evolution of the sport because, as you say now, I mean, we're seeing 20 very early in their 20s fighters who were, as you say, complete, totally complete in regards to their skills, their mental capabilities as well. May obviously need to grow with maturity, but they seem, in regards to their ringmanship and their fight IQ, to be very much there.
Yeah, it's crazy now to think about the sport today. And I don't mean to be disrespectful towards Hoist Gracie because, like I said, he's the reason why I got into this. He's the reason why we're all here. He's the reason why I'm doing this podcast now. But when I think about like Hoist Gracie and the current list of fighters, like in the UFC, I go, I don't think he could beat anybody in the UFC today. Like even when he was in his prime, based on his skill set. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Based on his skill set and within the rules that we play today of the UFC, he probably wouldn't win a fight. And that goes and that probably in all weight classes, you know what I'm saying? Like it's because because of the way the game has evolved so much, like you can't fight with just one discipline or just one thing. And when we look at the current the guys now, man, like the athletes are so tough, they're so strong, and they're so good at what they do that I mean, I'm really proud of how far the sport has come, and just in terms of the sport. I mean, it's been an amazing evolution, and to be a part of it, and to help that growth, and to see it from the beginning, and to be a part of it, and to also be a contributor to that growth makes me proud. So, yeah, I couldn't be more proud of our sport. I mean, I've been a huge factor in, I think, the growth of it, or just being a part of it.
Well, being the pioneer that you was from the very early days to then bringing through talents, um, to your crazy antics with Matt Serra. You're showing a very wide breadth of skills, and as you say, it's helped tremendously to grow. Not just the viewership, the ideas of what fighters are. I mean, there was all that stuff with New York and all that only first recently becoming legal,
Mm-hmm.
the briberies and all of that crazy stuff. I mean, there's been key figures, and when we can't just put it all on Uncle Dana and whatever. Everybody within the UFC, potentially outside of the UFC as well, has helped contribute to make this what we know now as mixed martial art to what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right about that, and I appreciate you saying that. Like, you can't put it all on Dana, and then you can't put the whole responsibility, and you can't put the fault on Dana for anything in the sport. Like, really, because it's a combination of everybody. It's really contributed and been a part of it. And for me, I'm just glad to still be a part of it, because there's been so many people who came up when I was coming up that are totally forgotten about. They're probably working some miserable job and telling their friends how they used to fight and how they used to be a badass, but they're working this miserable job. But here I am, like, I'm just so blessed. I'm just so blessed to still be a part of the sport, still be able to kick it with the big wigs in the game, and still be able to do interviews. I mean, it's such a blessing. And that's why I spend so much time giving back to young up and coming fighters, because I'm just blessed, and I want to be able to help up and coming fighters, because like I don't still have to be here. And because I am and I have this knowledge and information, I love to give back. That's why I'm always like doing what I can for young up and coming fighters that I see that want it bad enough. When I see somebody that wants it bad enough, I'm like, whatever you need, man, I got you. I'm gonna help you, because like I'm still here and I got help along the way. And I'm just so happy to be here that I need to be able to give back. And a motto that I always say is, when you make it to the top, send the elevator back down. And that's what I'm doing. I always send the elevator back down to pick up the next guy and bring them back up.
Definite wise words right there. I like that saying. I like that most definitely. You have to. I mean, with the you don't have to. Let's be frank with that. You do not
Yeah, you
have
don't have
to.
to.
But
Yeah.
with the knowledge that you've got and the experience you've got, why wouldn't you want to impart that to a young, malleable mind who could really take advantage of that said information and knowledge and impart that into their life and allow them to grow quicker. Um, so you could be giving them, you could be, well, you are by doing what you're doing, you're advancing fighters so quickly, and people like yourself or the coaches are giving that experience from all the wars in the gyms, from their own experience, for them watching all of those tapes and having the experiences. Um, they're advancing these young. That's what I think a key factor is in regards to the sport growing so quickly. In regard, not just in regards to the sport growing quickly, but the quality of the fighters that are coming through, because they've had an opportunity as a fan to sit back and say, look, I want to be a mixed martial artist. I've been doing boxing from when I was 2 or 3, or kickboxing, Muay Thai, whatever it is, and they've gone through a physical program, and then they get in contact with someone, the wizard. Let's call you all the wizards, with your all of the tools.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
And then you just you mix up that gumbo and say, here's that information, now you play with it, and then you craft it and you craft it and you mold it, and then when it comes to fight night, we generally see the products of all this here.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're 100% right about that. I mean, that's kind of the path that it goes. Like these guys, like nowadays. So like, and let me kind of backtrack a little bit, because when I was coming up, it was like all an accident. I feel like it wasn't supposed to be this way. Like I'm not supposed to still be here doing this, because this is a fringe sport that had supposed to just been like done away with in like 2003, or even sooner. Like this sport isn't supposed to be here. There's not supposed to be opportunities for people to be beating each other up on national TV. That's not supposed to happen, but it is. It is. And now you can get young kids watching it. You can, like, I was on the plane watching UFC on ESPN, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And young kids can watch it and go, that's what I want to do. How do I do that? Well, there's a school down the street. I can reach out to that guy. And then they can follow a path in order to have a career. And there are guys like me who know how to get people to have a career, and they can reach out to people like me, and they have access to people like me because of social media. So, I mean, it's really like, to be a mixed martial artist today, man, you're in a good spot, kind of. I mean, it's still very competitive and still a difficult life, but there's a lot of access to do it. And if you have the heart and the determination to do it, you can do it. Anybody can do it.
Definitely, as you say, determination, courage, um, continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Those are
Yeah.
the things that are going to help you along. It's not going to guarantee success, but it's going to help you, aid you along the way by having those things.
Yeah, I can like, you're right. Like, you need all those things that you just said. And then at some part, like one thing like patience, you need a little patience and then a little bit of luck sometimes. And with that, then anybody can make it, I think. Like definitely patience and then just a little bit of luck, like having the right fight or being at the right place at the right time or having the right win at the right time. And it's just those key elements can kind of catapult anybody into stardom or at least having a decent career.
Yes, indeed, sir. As we wind this down, Senor, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about the former champ. How's he getting along, and what do we see on the horizon? Um, I've been a huge follower of Mr. Woodley, and
Yeah,
have
man, he's
yeah
doing okay. He's doing okay. I think he's just kind of at a crossroads now because he he never expected himself to kind of be in this exact position ever. You know, at one point, like his goal was to, you know, run through everybody in the welterweight division and move up and then run through everybody in the middleweight division. He never expected himself to be, you know, 3 fights in a row, like losing and like just being totally shut out every round for the last 3 fights. He never
yeah
expected it. So I think it was a bit of a shock to him and a kind of a wake up call. And he had to deal with that. There's something he had to deal with before anything else. So he's still kind of dealing with that. But I think now he's come to terms with it and he's going, all right, now where do I go from here? What do I do now? But he's a guy who has so many different opportunities in life. Like he doesn't need to fight. I mean, it's good for him to fight because he was making a good living from it. But he's a guy who put himself in, while he was a fighter, he put himself in a position and made enough connections where he can do other things and still have a good living. So I think he's just trying to figure out, you know, where to go from here.
yeah
But in terms of like emotionally, he's doing a lot better now than he was, you know, say a few weeks ago when, like, you know, the
yeah
shock of, you know, just like, wow, I can't believe that I'm in this position.
Definitely. I mean, as I said, I mean, I think he was an excellent champion. The winning streak, the win streak he went on, and the opponents he fought were, you know, at a very high caliber. At this point, as you've highlighted, he's got so many fingers in the pies and stuff, and you know, the commentating, etc. Does he really need to do it at the age he's at now? I mean, I didn't even appreciate he was the age he was. I thought he was a lot younger, to be fair.
Yeah, and you know that's the thing is he, like, in his mind he was, which is why like he just like, yeah, I'll take that fight. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll beat this guy. And the thing is, like, and this is one thing I tell all fighters, like, when you're ready to be done, you're done probably a few years before that. Everybody knows it except you. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody knows you're done except you, and you're not ready to be done yet, but you're done, and you got to sometimes come to terms with that. And I don't like to, you know, write anybody's ticket for them, but this is just what I've experienced. That
Yes.
people are not, you know, people are done before they realize it. Like, and everybody knows it except you.
What was taking this back to your own career? What was that like for you in regards to you actually saying, you know what, I'm not going to I'm not going to put myself through this anymore. I'm going to retire. What was that kind of conversation like?
I had so when I left the UFC, I wanted to go down to 145, and at the time when I left the UFC, they did not have a 145-pound division. That was WEC. So I said, all right, I'm going to take some time off, then maybe go to the WEC at 145. So I had 4 fights outside of the UFC, and I won 4 fights outside of the UFC. And Joe Silva said, actually it was Sean Shelby, because he was doing the lighter guys at the time. He said, hey, listen, and then they finally put the 145-pound division in the UFC. And he said, listen, you get one more win and I'll bring you in the UFC at 145. And I said, bet, let's do it. And I fought Georgie Karakanyan. He fights in Bellator right now. And yeah, and I lost a decision to him. And I remember being in that fight thinking to myself, like, man, I really don't even care. And when I lost that decision, I said, man, I'm done.
Yeah.
If I can't beat this guy, I don't deserve to be fighting. And you know, and at the time, like, you know, and I don't say that to disrespect him.
No,
but I just say
that's
that, like,
you at the level you were and with the
yeah,
mindset that you had. No, I totally get it.
right. Because, you know, I was the name, and I said, man, if I lose to this guy, like, I can't fight, you know, these guys. Like, at the time, like Jose Aldo was the champ. I was like, I can't fight a guy like Jose Aldo. I can't even beat this guy. So I said, I need to retire. I need to get out of this. And I never looked back. I never looked at my life and thought, man, I want to go back and fight again. I never did that.
But you had an impressive, what, 20 plus wins, was it? Was it, what
Yeah.
was?
Yeah. 26 wins.
Shit. You don't hear that too much these days with someone with, I mean, that is a lot of experience, man. I mean, I've got three more things to round this up. Based upon what you've just said, how regularly throughout your, on average, throughout your fighting life, were you actually fighting? How many times per year to amount the, because you're close to like 30 plus fights, right?
Yeah, I had 34 fights. Yeah, actually 35 fights.
I was gonna say fight at 35, wasn't it? Because you had one no contest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I have a no contest, 35 fights. So earlier in my career, I was fighting a lot more frequently. You know, it was for whatever reason, you know, because it wasn't regulated back then. So you know, if you had a ring, if you could get your hands on a ring or a cage, you just set it up inside of a bar and threw an event. So yeah, it was no commission, it wasn't regulated. So like it was a little easier to get fights back then. And then when it got regulated, that was a little bit more difficult. And then, but by the time it got regulated, I had already been fighting at a high level. So I had been fighting in Japan and all over the world, and you know, and in the UFC. So so that was my thing. But by the time I got to the UFC, I was down to maybe 2 or 3 fights a year. But earlier in my career, I was kind of banging them out pretty regularly.
Shit. Okay. And you don't have any lasting physical effects from your fighting career?
Yeah, I mean, my knee, I have a really bad left knee, and that's been something that has plagued me my entire career. My left knee was always bad. Like in fact, I tore it, my meniscus in the Kenny Florian fight. The
Oh shit,
first time I think
yes.
the first time I think I had problems with it was in the fight against Kahuna. Like so, yeah, it's my whole career. It's given me problems, but and I also have really bad wrists. I actually both of them are very arthritic, and one of them I broke when I had a fight in Manchester, England, and it's really bad. Like my wrists are really bad.
Damn. Okay. The perils of combat sports. Last two. Have you had fun today, Din?
How do I have fun?
Now, have you had fun today?
Oh, have I had fun today? Oh, I had a great time today. This interview has been the highlight of my day. Actually, this is great.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And I'm glad to bring some highlight in these zombie apocalyptic times, most definitely. So we've had a pretty in-depth conversation. We've gone plenty places. I know your name, Dean Thomas. So tell me who you are, but don't tell me your name.
Who am I? I am a self-proclaimed Renaissance man who brings value to others in odd ways.
Very succinctly put. I like that. Excellent. Honors, thank you so much for jumping onto the broadcast. Please give out your social medias and any other thing you want to promote, Din.
Well, yes, please. You can follow me on social media at Dean Thomas. Dean spelled DIN, Thomas THOMAS. So everything is at Dean Thomas, and you can also listen to me on ESPN West Palm on worldwide on the ESPN app. So if you have ESPN, you can check me out on that.
Definitely. Make sure you go over to your Instagram and all the socials. Add him if you're not already added. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, and share, and we'll be back.